Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Show. It is great to be back. I've been off the airways for probably about a week and a half now, dealing with some personal stuff, dealing with a bunch of work, having a hangover from what has been a fantastic NFL playoffs, what has been a fantastic Super Bowl. I personally am down here in Florida, so watching one of the Florida teams here win the Super Bowl always warms my little heart. Also being in Florida and warming my heart, that means I don't have to deal with the snow and the ice and everything else that everybody else is up north is dealing with, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. If you live up north, I'm sorry. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I learned my lesson. I moved to Florida, and I won't go back. So with me tonight, I have a couple of distinguished guests. First, we're going to go to Angelo. Angelo is got his own little site here, angeloanalysis.com. You can follow him, Angelo_fantasy on Twitter. Angelo, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do, your background, and all that good fun stuff.
Sure, man. First, I'm jealous. You're in Florida. I'm up here in the windy city in Chicago. So it is about 13 degrees and it's been snowing all week. So, man, I'm jealous, brother.
Hey, listen, the best part about seeing snow is doing it from Florida on Facebook. Like that is a thing. It is absolutely fantastic.
I mean, I've had to wipe off my car every day this week. So, but yeah, it's being in the north, that's what you get. So I've been here since I was a kid. So I don't plan on moving anywhere else. But in terms of me and what I do, you can find me on Twitter at Angelo_fantasy. Or visit my website at angeloanalysis.com. I'm really looking forward to draft season. Almost done with the 2021 version of the site, so that's probably going to be up in hopefully the next week. Have some developers working on it, so I'm really excited for that. So a lot of what I do is just rookie analysis and prospect analysis in general in the Devy and Dynasty space. I myself work in sport and human performance. So a lot of my analysis is from that point of view. When we talk about like movement quality, angles, leverage, all that type of stuff, the nuances of the game of football. That's kind of where I come from and the type of spin I kind of put on my content.
That is awesome. And if you guys aren't following Angelo, please do. Some of the stuff that he puts out is some of the best stuff you're going to get. The analysis and how deep Angelo goes into the stuff is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Also, absolutely, you've earned it. Absolutely. Also with us, we have Nader from Top Tier Tactics. You can follow him at Top Tier Tactics _. I hope I got that right because I hate underscores. Nader, how are you doing this evening?
No, you nailed it. I'm not a big fan of underscores also, but I mean, unfortunately, somebody took that handle, so
man,
I had to adjust.
You got to do what you got to do. Right?
Yeah,
it is what it is.
It'd be that way though. So I mean, let's see. I got a Chicago here, got a Florida. I am in California, based in San Francisco, and I mean the weather's pretty nice here. I can't even complain. Also myself, I've never seen snow.
You guys are nice and warm, huh? Jeez.
like 60 degrees is considered really warm for us also, but also like 40 degrees is considered.
Man, it was negative 2-3 days ago. I don't want to hear that.
Never
60 degrees is cold, man.
I can honestly relate. It was like 45 degrees here a couple of days ago.
Man, I love that.
I put socks on with my flip flops. That's how cold it was.
Wow.
I had to bust out my winter gear.
I got to wear boots to take my dog out. It's tough. Tough out here,
40-degree weather, and I'm in like 2 sweaters underneath jacket, sweatpants, heavy socks. That's it. Like I can't. That's horrible.
I'm trying to picture my dogs and snow. So like when I open up the back door to let them to go out back, like they look at me like I've got 6 heads if it's raining. So I can't imagine what they're going to look at me like if like there's snow on the ground. I'm not going out there.
That's funny.
I love it. I love it. All right. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to go over some dynasty buys and sells. Nader, myself, and Angelo have compiled a list of 3 of each, 3 buys and 3 sells. We're going to go over those. But before we do that, I do have a question. Dynasty season is about to kick into full gear. For those who don't really follow Dynasty and the Dynasty community, it actually started as soon as the regular season ended. But it's about to go into high gear now that the Super Bowl is over and we got the draft coming up. Nader, I want to throw this question to you. How many COVID leagues did you join last year?
Let's see here. Define a COVID league.
So it was like, okay, I can't go nowhere. Hey, look, there's somebody joining a league. I'm dying for interaction with people, so I'm going to join this league.
I did it a couple times. I want to say at least 2 leagues that I just did just for the hell of it.
Okay.
How about you, Angelo? How many did you join?
One. Just one.
Oh, I'm so impressed.
Well, it's funny because my big quarantine activity was actually I did a big competitive Madden league with all my friends from high school.
Okay.
And so like we drafted and did, the fantasy draft you could do on Madden and stuff. Since NCAA like the new game's gonna come out in a couple of years, which I'm a little bit upset about, but I'm kind of excited about that. We did like a Madden franchise and chose and drafted teams, and we did like literally 6 seasons during quarantine.
That's impressive.
It was pretty impressive, but it was a lot of fun. But I joined one actual fantasy league, one new league during quarantine. I guess 2 actually. I started a Dynasty startup with some of my buddies as well, but that's it. Yeah, I kind of contained myself, so it was nice.
So I have to ask, like, when you guys were doing these Madden seasons, what did you do it kind of like fantasy, where at the end of each season, like you paid, everybody put a little money in a pot for the next season, and whoever was the champion or whoever finished with the best record or whatnot at the end of the year, like they got the pot, or was it just for fun or just competitive?
That's a great question, and it's really funny because we actually voted in our league whether to make it a money league or not, and all of us are like really competitive people, and we've known each other for a pretty long time. So we just like talking trash and beating each other.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I voted to make it money. Like I voted to make it a money league, but some of them didn't want it like that. So we decided now against it.
But did you win?
Yeah, I think I won 5 Super Bowls. So now we're on like 8 total seasons, though. I have not won in Madden 21, and hopefully that changes soon. So
I can help you on that one. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm hugely competitive, especially in Madden. I play that all the time.
I love.
We're gonna have to exchange usernames, game tags.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not a bigger, and there might be, and I'm just oblivious to it. Like true confession, I haven't really been big into video games since probably 2010, 2009 timeframe. Like back when Call of Duty was a thing and everybody would get on there and play for hours and hours and hours. Like that was like the last time I was super into video games. I tried doing the Madden thing. I ain't gonna lie, I was not very good at Madden. Everybody who I could beat the computer, that's fine. Sometimes they'd win, sometimes I'd win. I'm good with that. But like if I was actually playing another person, like I was terrible. I was the guy you wanted to play. It was literally I'm a human bye week. So I never really got big into it. But there may be like a Madden community out there where everybody is just playing along, and each year there's a pot of money that goes to the winner at the end of the year. Like, and if nobody in the league actually wins like the Super Bowl, it rolls over to the next year. Like if that's not a thing, I think it should be.
It is a thing.
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
It's a thing, especially like at the higher levels of Madden. It's definitely a thing. Like where me and my friends are at. I mean, a couple of us are pretty good. I'd like to say like we're pretty competitive Madden players against mostly anybody. But there's some dudes out there who like you don't want any of them. So, but yeah, I would love to see. I know they did a NFL one where it was an NFL tournament of like the NFL players, and they crowned like a Madden champion. So I would have like during quarantine, I would have paid to see like I don't know, like DeAndre Swift against DK Metcalf. Like I would have paid to see that.
I think I would too, Nader. So, okay, here's what we're going to do. You just said DK Metcalf and DeAndre Swift play. You'd pay for that. All right, Nader, I'm throwing it to you. Give me 2 players you'd pay to see play Madden.
Okay, I've seen, because actually during quarantine, they did do this. They had all the NFL rookies play each other, and they had now all of a sudden the rookie wide receivers. Now, for some reason, their name just kind of eluded me. Help me out here. Who are the top receivers in the draft?
CeeDee Lamb,
CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, there we go.
Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy. They actually went up against each other in Madden, and then they had a little mini tournament style. Cam Akers was also involved.
Okay,
and it was pretty fun to watch, actually, because you get to see them incorporating NFL styles into their gameplay in Madden, and that was pretty cool.
So the two guys I would actually pay to see Madden, like I would pay pretty decent money for this, is AJ Green and Jalen Ramsey.
Okay. I like that a lot.
That's a good one.
I'm throwing pay-per-view, like $60 pay-per-view type money down to watch those two play Madden, because the odds are that's going to end up in a fist fight. And so not only am I going to get to watch them to play Madden, I'm also getting a free fight out of this deal. Those are the two guys I would go. I wanted to do something with Gronk.
I was going to say Gronk and George Kittle will be electric.
Yes,
that'd be fun.
That'd be a fun
That would be
match.
Amazing.
That would be awesome. I'd pay a lot of money to watch that, for sure.
We have completely derailed, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Absolutely. We're having a good time. So I'm going to try to steer us right back onto the topic here. Award season just wrapped up. I'm just going to go through real quick. We'll just talk a little bit about who won what, who we thought should have won it, or if the NFL got it right. We'll start with Offensive Rookie of the Year. That went to Justin Herbert. I personally don't see anybody that should have won it over him. How about you guys?
Justin Jefferson could have been a very close second to maybe like a Justin Herbert's 1A, Justin Jefferson's 1B, but it always goes to the quarterback. And when he just kind of, I don't want to say turn that team around, but he made them a competitive team as soon as he hopped onto that roster and became that starter quarterback. So it has to by default go to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I like Justin Jefferson a ton. But yeah, I think you just gotta give it to the quarterback, right? I mean, I think he's a franchise altering player for them. And I think Justin Jefferson is for Minnesota as well, but the style of play with them and Dalvin Cook and them also having Adam Thielen and Irv Smith, I think Justin Jefferson means more to the Chargers than Herbert means more to the Chargers than Justin Jefferson means to the Vikings.
Justin Jefferson stepped into Stephon Diggs' role. So, I mean, it's not like he came in and just blew away that offense above and beyond. I mean, the way Justin Herbert did is kind of a different scenario, if you will.
Yeah, I think bottom line, it comes down to the position they play. And as Angelo stated, it's going to go to the quarterback every time. I don't think anybody has a problem with Chase Young, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Like, that's pretty cut and dry, right?
Nope, dude's a beast.
Yeah.
This guy's a monster.
They got themselves a stud. I'm happy for them. Aaron Donald, Defensive Player of the Year. Did TJ Watt get snubbed?
No. They had similar numbers, and every single play, it's double team Aaron Donald. Sometimes even triple team. I've seen triple teams on Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Not once do you ever say double team TJ Watt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in the NFL year in, year out. Yeah, I don't think it's even a conversation. I mean, I don't think it's even a conversation. I think he's on a different level than every other defender in the NFL.
I think my boy Xavier Howard should have got more votes than he did, but I do agree that
he was good. He was really good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Offensive Player of the Year, Derrick Henry. I don't think anybody is going to argue against that, right?
2K rushing yards. Give it to him.
The man earned it. Kevin Stefanski, Coach of the Year. Did anybody disagree there?
The doo-doo Browns are now not necessarily completely doo-doo. So, I mean, if you're going to turn around a laughingstock of an organization, then you deserve it.
No, I agree. I think I was most impressed with Stefanski and Flores too. I think I think Miami being as competitive as they are this early, in their rebuild. I mean, we expected 3 to 5 years for it to take for them to be as competitive as they currently are. And I think that's the most impressive part of what Flores has done, and the culture he's created in Miami's it's growing. And I think they'll only get better from here too.
As a Dolphins fan, I like that.
Yeah.
I think if the Dolphins made playoffs, he would have more of an argument. But
Yeah,
I think him blowing, not necessarily blowing, but not making the playoffs compared to the Browns making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that is the altering effect.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. Alex Smith wins the comeback player of the year. I think we all agree the one person that voted for Ben Roethlisberger deserves to be fired, correct?
He did it for the meme.
I cannot believe Ben Roethlisberger got a vote. Like, oh my goodness. But yeah, definitely Alex Smith.
Yeah, they should rename it the Alex Smith comeback player.
They actually should. Like, they 1,000% should name that award after Alex Smith.
Yeah. And we got some guy by the name of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Coming in this year, I heard he sucked. He was old. He was no good. But I guess he won the MVP, which I guess that's pretty good, right?
He's pretty good at football.
He's all right. As a Bears fan, I mean, it hurts. It hurts watching him dominate every single Sunday.
I'm a Dolphins fan, so I got to see Tom Brady
he's
for
good.
75 years in the AFC East.
Yeah, he's
as I alluded to earlier, Tampa Bay Bucks, they won the Super Bowl. And might I say, it was very impressive what they did. Like, they beat Washington football team in Washington, and you can say what you want about the Washington football team. Like, we know they're not a complete team. They're not a stout team. But they gave the Bucks a run for money. And then after that, all they did was beat Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl. So I guess that's good.
Yeah,
it's all right.
I mean, they're definitely. I mean, if they keep the band together, I mean, they're going to get the Chiefs a run for their money. I just think that because they play a completely different brand of football than the Chiefs do, and that's the most interesting part. You're getting two contrasting teams at playing at both an extremely high level. So I'm really excited to see what the Bucks do in free agency, if anything, if anyone leaves, if everyone stays, and what they can do to put more around Tom Brady. Yeah,
so I believe that. So we already heard Tom Brady said he's willing to take a pay cut to help the team, which that surprises nobody. Mike Evans has said he's willing to take a pay cut to help the team. Honestly, like, he just wants to win. I don't think the money's a big issue for him. Clearly, it's not. I believe they're going to probably end up franchise tagging Chris Godwin as long as what's their linebacker?
Levante David.
Not Levante David.
Devin White.
Maybe he's an edge rusher.
I think
Shaquille Barrett.
Yeah.
Shaquille Barrett.
Shaquille Barrett. Yeah, as long as they can get something done with him, I think they'll end up tagging Chris Godwin. If they don't, and it comes down to the two of them, they're going to have to make a decision. But we'll talk about the Bucks a little bit later. I don't want to beat the horn of the Bucks. I'm not a huge Buck fan, but I do appreciate what they did this year. They were just phenomenal to watch. I don't know if it's a big surprise. It's a little surprise for me. Taylor Heineke gets a 2-year deal. Is he going to become a thing?
If Haskins can become a thing, he can become a thing.
Was Haskins ever a thing?
Ooh, yeah, no. Good argument.
No, he's not a thing. But what he showed in the playoffs, the way he just kind of shook the whole NFL world, the way he just kind of, I don't want to say out-dueled Tom Brady, but he definitely went haymaker for haymaker with Tom Brady. And if you do that with the difference of quality in teams, then you have to get a couple of extra looks. And I mean, a 2-year deal is exactly what they were thinking.
Yeah, it's perfect for like, I'm happy for him. Like, that one running play that he did in the playoffs, like, he looked phenomenal on that play. Like, so I don't blame them for giving a 2-year deal to see what all he's got. Angelo, let me ask you this: if Heineke goes into the season as the starting quarterback, where would you rank him, just off the top of your head?
God, I mean, he's in the bottom quarter of quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. I don't think any of us know, how good he is, but I think he's a clear backup. I mean, I just don't, I don't think he's that good.
So not a top 24, right?
No.
Okay. Which is honestly, I'm right there with you. Like, I would probably have him around 26, 27. Unless they add a lot of weapons on the offense. If they go out and they add totally hypothetical. I don't believe it'll ever happen. But let's say they go out and they add like a Kenny Golladay and an Allen Robinson to go with what else they've got there. Like, okay, I will bump him up because there's almost no way like he doesn't produce with those weapons. But it would take something drastic for me to move him up into a top 24.
Do we think he starts? I don't think he starts.
He'll compete. I say he starts, unless
really. I don't know. I think
it's open competition. I think honestly, I think WTF is going in with the plans of having an open competition, and whoever wins the competition is starter. I don't think it's guaranteed to be Alex Smith. I don't think it's going to be guaranteed to be Heineke. I think it's open competition, and whoever is the better quarterback will start.
Yeah.
You got a McLaurin, you got a Logan Thomas, you got a running game. There's workable pieces around the Washington football team's roster. As long as if they can get maybe another weapon onto the opposite of McLaurin, then I think they definitely do have a threatening offense.
And their defense is going to keep them in games. So,
exactly.
All right, that's enough Washington talk. Let's talk. Like we're going to go from one really bad team in Washington to another one in the Raiders. Interested in Juju, while Tyrell Williams is expected to be released. And do we actually believe the Raiders are going to move on from Derek Carr?
You need a solid and clear upgrade from Derek Carr. And right now there is no clear, solid upgrade to Derek Carr unless you make a huge move to Deshaun Watson, which I don't think will happen. So therefore, Derek Carr is going to stay on that roster.
No, I completely agree with that. I think, I think the only plausible option is they can trade, and get like one of the top end first round picks, like a top 5 to 8 pick, but I doubt that's going to happen. But yeah, I think Derek Carr is under center again.
So this reminds me of like when I first started fantasy football and I really wasn't sure what I was doing. And I would look at my roster and I'd be like, all right, I want this guy. So I'd call up a friend and say, hey, I'm interested in trading for this player. What would it take? And he's like, I want this, this, and this. Okay. Then I see somebody else I'm interested in. Oh, okay, this. Then I start thinking, well, maybe if I trade for this guy, I can turn around and flip that guy for that guy who I really, really want. Like I think that's what this feels like with the Raiders trying to move Derek Carr so they can get enough assets to acquire Watson. They're trying to play 3 or 4D checkers when really they're playing Chinese chess. Or they're trying to play 3 or 4D chess while playing Chinese checkers. Excuse me. I got that backwards. But yeah, I'm in agreement. The Carr's going to be the Raiders quarterback to start the season. Carson Wentz is expected to be traded. I'm happy for Mr. Hurts. I was really high on him last season coming in. I didn't think he would be a starter at all last year unless an injury happened. And knowing that he had Carson Wentz ahead of him, I figured that would probably happen at some point. But I'd never seen Wentz getting benched for him. But he came in, and as far as fantasy goes, he looked really good. I would like to see him get a few more weapons. But I really do like Jalen Hurts. What do you guys think of Carson Wentz, though, him getting traded, and where do you think he's going to go?
Oh, man. I mean, there's rumblings of either two places, Indy or Chicago. So I think it's Indianapolis at the end of the day. I think that's the most plausible. Chicago would be interesting because of, Chicago picks 20. Like I don't right now it's like 2 first-round picks in the table from Indy and like a future 3rd or 4th. The Bears would have to give up a first and then another second next year. I mean, is that worth it for Carson Wentz? And is he the answer for the Bears franchise? I don't know if he is. Me personally, if Mac Jones is there at 20, I would rather take Mac Jones over Carson Wentz at this stage in his career. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts too. I think he can grow into a very good NFL quarterback. But you're right, the Eagles need weapons. Jalen Reagor is a fine piece, I think. But man, dude, Jalen Hurts was throwing the ball to Goddard, and that's about it. Fulgham, Ward.
Fulgham was a thing for a minute.
The ghost of Alshon Jeffrey, like that's what he had to work with. So getting him, and Miles Sanders was hurt too. So like getting him, actual offensive weapons to work around. I think he can be a fine quarterback in the NFL, and he's going to be spectacular for fantasy because, his rushing upside is out of this world. He might rush if he starts all 16 games next year. He might be a 600, 700-yard rusher.
What are your thoughts, Nader?
I'm not paying a first round for Carson Wentz. I'd maybe think about a second round for Carson Wentz. I mean, a horrible contract, lackluster play equals bad performance. I don't want him. I do not see another team that would want him. I think this is all just the Eagles trying to hype up his draft stock. I realistically don't think there's any real interest from other teams.
So let me ask you this: if you believe your team is a championship contender, and I'm going to use the San Francisco 49ers for this example, is Carson Wentz an upgrade over Jimmy G?
No, absolutely not. I would much rather have Jimmy G other than Carson Wentz.
Man, I think Carson Wentz is more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo, but is Carson Wentz better than him currently? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think he is. So, I don't think that the part that stinks about trading for Carson Wentz is you don't know who you're going to get.
Yep.
Are you going to get the shell of Carson Wentz that you saw last year, who was absolutely awful? Or are you going to get the 2017 MVP Carson Wentz? Or somewhere in between? So you have no idea. You're trading for a player. You have no idea what you're going to get.
I will say this: Carson Wentz is not the same guy. I want to make sure I got this right because I could be wrong now that I think about it. What was he the one when they were playing the Patriots? He said that he's seen ghosts.
That was Sam Darnold.
That was
Sam
Darnold.
Oh, Sam Darnold. Okay, it was another crappy white quarterback. Is what I'm trying to say. 'Cause I thought that was Carson Wentz. I was thinking he hasn't been the same since he's seen ghosts, but he just may be seeing ghosts and not tell us. I agree. You really don't know what you're getting with Carson Wentz. Are you getting the MVP candidate or are you getting the corpse that you've seen the last couple of years? It's a huge gamble. I do agree a second round pick is probably what I would be willing to trade, and that's maybe max considering his cap hit for the next 2 years at least. But I do know if the Eagles don't trade him by March, they get stuck with his cap.
Like March 10th, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they are doing something, it's going to be within the next 3 or 4 weeks. They're going to have to do something if they plan on moving him. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck with that. I'm not going to talk about the next guy that I have listed here in the show notes, just because I'm going to talk about him a little bit later in my buys and sells. Real quick, I'm going to do the quick read here for Patreon. If you want to win a signed Super Bowl champion Chris Godwin jersey or a signed Kenny Golladay jersey, sign up for the Superwire Patreon. We have 4 different price classes that range anywhere from $1 to $25. Once we have 100 patrons signed up to the Patreon, we will randomly pick one person. We'll announce them live on the show, and we will give you your choice of either jersey. So sign up for Sleeperwire Patreon at patreon.com/Sleeperwire to get in the contest. All right. Now that we got all the beginning stuff done, let's get right into this. We are going to be talking about Dynasty buys, Dynasty sells. So I reached out to you guys. I changed the show probably last minute, but I thought this was a little bit better. I asked each of you to give me 3 of your buys, 3 of your sells. I also came up with my own list for those. Nader, we're going to throw it to you first because that's how I have it listed on the sheet. Let's start with your 3 Dynasty buys and tell me why you have them on your radar as Dynasty buys.
All right. So first off, we're going to start with Brandon Ayuk, and we're going to have a theme of second-year players on my list. Brandon Ayuk, I mean, let's face it, Niners receiver from the Niners, and he was a big focal point in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And just a quick little stat right there from week 7 to 17, Brandon Ayuk averaged 94 yards per game. And the only other receivers to do that were Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. He's going to be a stud in that offense. And once he finally gets a quarterback in that offense, he's going to be a bigger stud. I mean, let's face it, he was doing all that with the 3rd and 2nd string quarterback. He is my must-have on the list right now. Somebody else I want to add is LaMichael Pirine. And week 13, there was a report that Michael Pirine was going to be taking RB1 snaps ahead of Frank Gore. And the game after that, he had 8 carries, rushing touchdown, but left the game early due to a high ankle sprain. And then he ended the year on the COVID-19 list. So we are still yet to see what he's going to be, but Frank Gore is not going to be on that roster. They got a new coaching regime. And every time you have a young to unpredictable quarterback, you always want to establish the running game. That means LaMichael has a phenomenal chance to be a very good RB. And he came out of the draft known as a receiving back and a very good pass blocker. And if you're under Frank Gore's little apprenticeship, then you're always going to be a solid pass blocker, meaning you're going to be on the field. And that's the most important part you need in order to get fantasy points. And then last on my bias, it's going to be Cole Kmet. Because, I mean, he's a second-year tight end that showed flashes, and the tight end position is so weak in general that you kind of have to latch on to potential hoping that it hits. I mean, he's playing backup to 35-year-old Jimmy Graham, and he's on the last year of his contract, and from weeks 11 to 17, he played 78% of the snaps. So he still out-snapped Jimmy Graham, even though he was playing backup to Jimmy Graham. And with Allen Robinson expected to leave this offseason, Cole Kmet just has a huge opportunity to be a huge fantasy relevant tight end.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you real quick, where do you see Brandon Ayuk falling next year? Like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3?
Oh, he's going to be a high end wide receiver 2 to low end wide receiver 1, depending on the situation, as long as he could stay healthy. I mean, last year he had a high ankle sprain. And he also ended up on the COVID-19 list. So, I mean, he has a few injury bugs that he has to get over.
I think I would say I'd probably have him more as a high wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3. I'm just concerned that with Debo coming back and George Kittle coming back, that I don't know if he'll be featured as much. But I do like Brandon Ayuk. Same question for Cole Kmet. Where do you see, like, as you mentioned, tight end is outside of, 2 or 3 tight ends. It's pretty much a wasteland. Where do you have him falling in?
He's going to be a tight end 1. Not saying that because he's going to be elite, but by default, he's just going to be a tight end 1. If you're in a 12 team league and you have a top 10 tight end, which I think Cole Kmet could do, just because it won't be difficult, then you're automatically a tight end 1.
Yeah, I agree. And last one, LaMichael Pirine.
Michael, he's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, you are picking up a running back on a bad team.
Yeah,
a little bit of a weak offensive line, questionable quarterback play, unknown coaching. But RBs are difficult, and if you are able to find a gem like a James Robinson, then you immediately elevate your team to a higher degree, and you want to try to reach for those, especially if you have to reach around for it. It's always worth it.
I will say this about LaMichael Pirine. As long as he's the starting running back for the Jets, he's welcome on my team, because I want as many starting running backs on my team as I can possibly get my hands on.
Exactly.
So, I agree. It doesn't matter if he finishes as the number 32 running back or the number 1 running back. I want him on my team, point blank, period. Because that position is so difficult.
Exactly.
To healthy and week to week, like, you could be going in thinking you're set. You've got 3 really good running backs, and by the end of week 2, you have no running backs, and now you're in hell. You're in hell.
We saw it just this year. At one point, I had Chris Carson, McCaffrey, and Aaron Jones as my 3 RBs. At one point of the season, I had none of them starting for me. So, I mean, the running back position flips with a snap of a finger. So you have to have depth everywhere you can.
Yep. Angelo, let's move to your buys. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Awesome. My first one is my guy Bobby Trees. I think every year I come back to it, and he's an absolute bargain at the position. I think right now is like ECR is right around like 20 wide receiver 25. I feel like every year Robert Woods finishes as a top 15 wide receiver. I mean, that's just who he is. And I think with Matt Stafford throwing the football now, I think they're going to throw the football down the field a lot more, and that benefits him. I think Cooper Kupp's going to kind of stay in his role in the slot. I think with the way Robert Woods moves around, what he can do as a field stretcher as well, I think he's an absolute buy at his cost right now, because he's getting up there in age. I think he's like 28, 29 right now. So I think Robert Woods is probably my biggest buy of the offseason at the position. And then my second one's Myles Gaskin. I'm not sure if Flores drafts a running back in the first round. I think we've heard a ton of rumblings about Najee Harris going there. And as a big Najee Harris fan, I would love if Najee Harris went to the Miami Dolphins. But I think they have, bigger needs. And if they decide to draft 2 receivers in the first round, so let's say they take Chase or Smith at 3, and later on in the first round, they take a guy like Bateman. That's a big possibility. So if you can acquire Gaskin for, pretty much the dirt cheap, that might be a huge, huge boon to your team, because you're getting a guy who was a RB1 when he was playing and healthy, at a fraction of that cost. And then my last guy is the guy who was the NFL leader in passing yards by right when he got hurt, was Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott might be the biggest buy of the offseason, because everybody's kind of forgotten about what he did when he was healthy. And, the Cowboys, I think, were leading the league in points per game. He has all his weapons at his disposal with CeeDee Lamb, in his second year as a receiver. Amari Cooper is still a near elite wide receiver, in my opinion. And Michael Gallup still, I believe, has 1 more year on his deal. So he has a trio of receivers to throw the ball to. They might add a tight end in the draft. Like, I love Brevin Jordan there. That'd be fantastic. But man, I think Dak Prescott's being severely slept on, and I'll definitely be acquiring a couple more Dak Prescott shares.
So let me say, as a Miami Dolphin fan, I hate the idea of Miami drafting a running back at 3. I hate it.
Later in the first round, not 3. They wouldn't do it at 3.
Yeah, like everybody is making the connection. Oh, they're going to take Devonta Smith 3rd overall. He's got the connection with Tua from college. Like, that's great, and I don't mind having Devonta Smith on my team. I think he's a very talented wide receiver. He's definitely, one of the top 2 in this draft. But he's not somebody I want to spend the number 3 overall pick on. If worst case, if the offensive tackle is there, Sewell, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. If he's there, I want Miami to take him. Build that offensive line. You got Tua back there for now. It may be Deshaun Watson at one point. We're not sure. But you got Tua back there. I want you to be able to protect him. So build up the offensive line. Then at 18, I absolutely love the idea of taking Rashad Bateman. Like, that would make me happy. I don't mind buying a quarterback or wide receiver in the first round. I don't want it to be that 3rd overall pick. It's just way too valuable a pick to be spending, in my opinion, on a wide receiver.
Right on.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with you there. Myles Gaskin is he's an undrafted free agent, and then they had Sullivan Ahmed, who is also an undrafted or 7th round free agent. So they had 2 late round draft picks producing in the running back position. And realistically, you should never spend high capital on a running back, in my opinion. At least you could always find those later on. And if you have a solid offensive line, solid wide receiver play, and a solid play calling, then realistically anybody can be a solid NFL running back. So I would agree with you there.
I don't think running back's a need for Miami. Myles Gaskin was one of the guys that I had as a buy as well. I did change it because that's who Angelo had on his list. People got to remember, like, he had 142 rushes for 584 yards. He averaged 4.1 yards per carry. Like, 4.1 yards per carry is not going to knock your socks off. But, like, anytime you get a running back that's over 4 yards to carry, like, that's good. And then what he did that is even more impressive is he's a hell of a pass-catching running back. He was targeted 47 times in 10 games. He had 41 receptions, almost 400 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Like, I think if he would have played all 16 games, he probably would have been over, close to 70 targets. He probably would have had close to 60 receptions. Like, I'll take that all day long. So I don't think running back is a huge need for Miami. If you can go out and get yourself Myles Gaskin, like, if you can get him at a good price, go ahead and do it. Because I think there are a lot of people who think Miami's going to draft a running back, and I'm not sold. I don't see it. I have 4 buys. I broke my own rules for my buys just because I wanted to get all 4 of these guys on here. The first guy I'm going to go out and buy is CEH. And anybody who knows me, anybody who's listened to the shows I've done, I am the biggest anti-CEH guy you can find. Like I was saying last year, I would not don't draft him in the first round. You're going to be disappointed. He's going to bust. He's not going to be what you think he is. Coming into the draft last year, I had him as my number 6 overall running back, and that was without James Robinson being anywhere on my radar. So it's just I was not a big fan of the guy, and it wasn't necessarily him. It was more the draft capital you have to spend to get him. You had to spend a mid first to late first round pick if you were going to get him as soon as Damian Williams opted out. Coming into this year, I think his price is definitely going to drop, and therefore he becomes a lot more acquirable for me. He does have the first round draft capital. He is still in Kansas City. Both of those things are going good, but I think he's going to get better. But I think you can get him at more of a reasonable price now, and that's why I would go out and buy him. I still think Damian Williams comes back next year. I think that they're going to be in a pretty decent timeshare. But at his going rate now, where before it was literally, would you rather have CEH or Jonathan Taylor? And a lot of people would say CEH, not based on talent, but just based on landing spot. Now you can get him at a more reasonable price. So now I'm actually interested in CEH. Another person I'm interested is in Deontay Johnson. I'm just assuming Juju is no longer in Pittsburgh. I think they split ways this offseason. And that means Deontay Johnson is gonna get even more targets. Now he has to be able to catch the ball, right? Like he's a wide receiver. If you can't catch the ball, clearly you're not going to be playing for Mike Tomlin. But I think it's something he will work on. I think the drops just started to pile up and got into his head, and he was just over concentrating on trying to catch the damn ball, and that's why he had so many drops. I absolutely love him and Chase Claypool in Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, who I think next year they're just going to throw the ball all over the place again. So I want me some of Deontay Johnson. Another guy I'm very interested in is Ty Johnson. He's going to be a lot cheaper than anybody I have on this list. But as we mentioned earlier, AB is a free agent. I'm not sure he's going to re-sign with Tampa. I think he's going to want to get a long-term deal. I think he's going to want to get paid. We're not sure if Chris Godwin's going to come back. If they tag him, the 3 wide receiver set will be Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson was a rookie. Tom Brady really likes this kid. We've even seen him make a couple of pretty amazing catches in some high spots in the playoffs, in some high-pressure spots. So he's somebody that I'm fairly interested in. And last but not least is one of my favorite running backs is DeAndre Swift. I think it's pretty much safe to assume Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones are going to be leaving Detroit. I don't see either one of them coming back. I don't know who Jared Goff's going to throw the ball to, but I know it's going to be TJ Hawkinson. And with Anthony Lynn now as the offensive coordinator, I expect them to use DeAndre Swift a lot like they were using Austin Eckler. And I absolutely love that for DeAndre Swift. Like, I think people would be a lot higher on him if he would have caught that ball in the end zone the very first game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think, like, if he would have caught that ball, like, Adrian Peterson would not have seen the field. But he was a rookie in his first game, and he dropped the ball in the end zone, cost him a game, and he was in the doghouse ever since. And then there's Matt Patricia, who, let's face it, like, Matthew Stafford said, I do not want to go to New England. That's the only team he said you cannot trade me to, and it was because of Matt Patricia. So I'm going to put all the flaws for DeAndre Swift last year on Matt Patricia's shoulders and say it was your fault because you wanted to use the New England style of running back versus giving one guy who is clearly a three-down back who can do it all, who is your best player in the running back corpse that you have, and you keep trotting out this 78-year-old machine known as Adrian Peterson. Like, no, I think they're going to feature DeAndre Swift, and if you can get him, I think you've got yourself a top 6 running back going forward. Anything there you guys want to add? Anything you disagree with? Am I wrong? I mean, I've been known to be wrong quite often.
So I have just one question on Ty Johnson. Do you mean Tyler Johnson?
I think it's Tyler Johnson.
I'm
sorry, it's Tyler Johnson. Yes, I call I always refer to him as Ty Johnson. It's Tyler Johnson, yes.
Yeah, because when you said Ty Johnson, I immediately went to the other Jets running back, and I said I was ready to go. Okay, all right, we're debating.
That's a really deep one. Like that's a really interesting dive he just had.
And at first I was like, okay, I mean, I could see it, but then you started talking about like the Buccaneers, and I went, hold on, we're talking about the wrong guy.
No, yeah, I
did the same.
That is 100% my fault.
Okay, I mean, so I think I think Swift is a great one, but the only bad thing about him is that he's not going to be cheap, but
expensive.
But Jared Goff likes to check down to RBs in a way that Matthew Stafford does not. So I think his status especially gets elevated a little bit more with Goff at quarterback. And I mean, Ben Roethlisberger averages over 450 passes per game. Deontay Johnson has to get at least over 100 targets, and which he will. He's probably going to have a near 100-yard reception season. I mean, Deontay Johnson, he's going to be phenomenal, especially with Juju gone. I mean, I really like this list. I personally don't know how I would acquire CEH. He would be very expensive.
So, go ahead, Angelo.
I think it's tough, man, because some people just want out right now.
Yep.
But some people are willing to keep him around because he actually had a good rookie season. Like, despite Le'Veon Bell being in there, despite getting injured, he had 1,100 total yards in 14 games. Like, you could have gotten it a lot worse. But that's part of the reason why his cost might be pretty high still, is people think that, hey, can he turn that 1,100 yard season in 14 games into a 1,500 yard season with 8 touchdowns? Maybe, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's really league to league dependent. Some of my leagues owners are like, man, I want out right now, and some are like, no, like I'm holding on to him unless you give me some pretty good capital.
Say, for a hypothetical, if you own CEH, Angelo, and say George wanted him, George, what would you offer for him?
So, if I'm trying to buy CEH, I would come with a late first for starters. So we're talking anywhere between, I'll say 109 and 112. We'll say I have the 10th pick. Okay. So I'm going to start with the 110, and I'm figuring I'm getting a running back. You're going to at least want a starting running back. So I'm going to look at my roster, and if I've got somebody on there, like maybe a Myles Gaskin or maybe a Melvin Gordon, like somebody who we know will probably end up being a starting running back. Like, that's where I would start.
Would you take it?
No,
because
I just don't. For me, it's like I'm looking at floor and ceiling, right? The floor of CEH might have been what we just saw, which it's not bad,
but it could be worse.
I don't think it can get worse.
I don't know. We thought Le'Veon Bell would completely take over that role. He did nothing. Le'Veon Bell didn't even have a touch in the Super Bowl.
Well, right. But I mean, I also think that, a guy like CEH's role is going to grow. I mean, I think Andy Reid took him in the first round for a reason, and smart NFL minds are smart NFL minds, man. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he has like 600 yards next year. But I would look like if I have CEH and someone's like, all right, like 106, maybe, because I can get a pretty decent, like if I'm drafting after the NFL draft, and let's say Williams goes to a smash spot, or Devonta Smith falls in my league, and I can get Devonta Smith essentially plus something else, then maybe. But I still like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, I think he can still be a pretty viable fantasy running back, especially if next year Kansas City tries to actually throw the ball to their running backs. That was Clyde Edwards-Helaire's best attribute out of college. Is he was a really good receiver. Is really great on angle and option routes. Kansas City didn't really deploy him like that. So I don't know, man. I think he's a tough player to trade away because you don't really know where you kind of want to pinpoint his value.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was coming up with my list, I was talking with a friend of mine, Jason, who he couldn't come on with this tonight, but typically he and I do this. We do our podcast together. One of the guys he mentioned as a sell, and I don't think I put him on my list, and I don't think we have him on anybody's list. No, he's not. One of his sells was the Bears running back, David Montgomery. So if I came at you with a late first and David Montgomery, would that be enough for you to trade CH?
I mean, I'm a big Dave Montgomery fan, and so maybe. But, I mean, I think there's a good chance that Dave Montgomery returns similar value to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, Dave Montgomery was RB4.
Yeah, I know.
People say, well, Tariq Cohen's coming back.
He might be involved in a trade.
Yeah, Dave Montgomery's a better receiver than Tariq Cohen is, and he showed that this year. And I think Dave Montgomery is a true three-down workhorse, and that was his appeal coming out of Iowa State. So, I mean, Dave Montgomery might just be a back-end RB1 again. I mean, he was a front-end RB1 this year, but, I mean, if he's RB10, RB9, I would much rather have that and a late first-round pick where I can potentially get a guy like Rashad Bateman, or if Trey Lance falls and I'm in a super flex league or something like that, because I know I'm still getting a decent return.
Yeah, so and I 100% agree. So, and just for clarification, when I look at these trades, like I predominantly only do super flex leagues. So when I come at you saying I'm offering like the 110, I'm automatically assuming everybody. Everybody else is also assuming it's a super flex league where some of the value does get pushed back because quarterbacks are so valuable. So that's where my line of thinking was with the 110. But yeah, anyway, that's enough. And Nader, you mentioned it. DeAndre Swift is expensive. He is, and I would honestly be willing to give up like 2 first-round draft picks for him. And I wouldn't have any regrets, I don't think. I'm a huge DeAndre Swift fan.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So, but all right, Nader, let's jump right in here. You got 3 sells on here. Let's jump on those.
All right, so I'm going to start off with Jamal Williams. He is a free agent as of right now, and it doesn't matter where he goes. He will not have a favorable situation for him to be a productive running back. His best case scenario is Aaron Jones leaves the Packers and the Packers decide to re-sign him. But even then, there's still A.J. Dillon, who looked pretty good in the playoffs. But, I mean, Jamal Williams does have going for him that when he is the workhorse, he has been extremely productive, which is why he is probably rostered in almost every league, and especially Dynasty leagues. But him being a free agent, no good spots for him to land to. I'd rather cut ties with Jamal Williams as fast as possible. Another one is Devontae Parker, and that's just mostly on the fact that he is only productive when Fitzmagic is the quarterback, and we kind of saw how Tua just didn't really look his way. I mean, there was one game against the Rams where he only had 2 receiving yards, and I don't want to put my dynasty stock in an inconsistent receiver with a inconsistent quarterback on an inconsistent team. I would rather ship him, maybe get a second rounder out of him, maybe another player that has more potential or more upside than Devontae Parker, then stick with him. And a third one is Chris Carson, out of all people. I mean, he's also another free agent RB, and the Seattle Seahawks are probably the only team that will re-sign him. And even then, they still have Rashad Penny. They drafted Travis Homer, and they also drafted DJ Dallas. So Chris Carson has never played a full 16-game season. He's not going to play a full 17-game season now. He's always injured. And when you have a physical running style that he has, you're always going to have something lingering. And for that reason, I'm going to have to stick away with him.
Can I give you a really fun stat on Jamal Williams?
Let's hear it.
He has a career total rushing attempts, 500. He has 0 fumbles.
That's not bad.
No.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I seen somebody tweet that, and I wish I could give the person who originally sent that tweet credit. I don't remember who it was. I seen it a couple days ago on Twitter, and it just blew my mind. Like, he's touched the ball that many times and has never fumbled the ball. I think he will end up somewhere and with the role. If they don't bring back Chris Carson, I could honestly see a Jamal Williams in Seattle. Not saying he will be their lead running back, but I think he's somebody that would have a role there.
Yeah, in Seattle right now, Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson are free agents. They also had Alex Collins for a hot minute. He's technically now a free agent. I mean, the Seattle has a lot of free agents right now, and they also have to pay a lot of people, especially when they have an unhappy Russell Wilson, who is very unhappy with his offensive line. So they're probably going to have to shell out some money for some offensive linemen in the free agency period. So, I mean, running backs are difficult, and you don't want to pay any of them. And because of that, you just end up drafting them. And I mean, Rashad Penny is still cheap, and DJ Dallas is cheap. Travis Homer's cheap. They might end up just sticking with the low end guys and letting Russ cook.
Yeah.
They definitely need to protect that man. If I was him, I'd be furious about how much I get hit as well.
I mean, I'm a Niners fan, so I mean, I like it.
I'm not mad at you at all. I support this message.
There we go.
All right, Angelo, go ahead. Break my heart here. You got two of my guys on your list for sells here.
Yeah, so man.
Go ahead, man.
First one is DK Metcalf, man. I mean, I think it's more so. I love DK Metcalf. First of all, I think DK's coming to his own as a receiver, but people are kind of valuing him right now as a top 4 dynasty asset at the position. And I think that's why once it gets to that point, kind of like almost the pinnacle of the position, you might look to sell and get a pretty decent haul for him. I mean, the thing that's kind of concerning is the inconsistencies that we've seen, even in his sophomore year. I mean, his rookie year, he was great. He showed flashes, and this year, he stepped it up completely through the first 10 weeks. Then after week 10 on, he had 2 games over 15 PPR points and 3 games under 10 points. If I have a dynasty wide receiver 1, like a top flight wide receiver, I want the consistency, the DeAndre Hopkins game-to-game consistency where I know I'm getting, 16 points plus out of that guy, right? I know I'm getting those points per week. And with DK Metcalf, with how the Seattle offense has been kind of trending, I mean, it's so up and down. Like, you don't know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. And he plays Jalen Ramsey twice a year, which stinks. Like, he's not going to go for like 150 and 2. That's not going to happen. But I like him, but I think at his current, ADP and his cost, I think he could be a definite sell if you can get a nice haul for him. My next guy is Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders is heading towards being a committee back for the remainder of his career. I wasn't really high on Sanders coming out. I think he had a lot of issues as a rusher in terms of efficiency, ball security issues. And he ironed a lot of those out his rookie season, right? I mean, with Deuce Staley as his coach, he did a fantastic job with Sanders. And we thought Sanders was ready to blow up this year and be a front-end RB1. But, we saw the inefficiencies as a receiver show up. I mean, he was top league in drop rate. And then we also saw the durability issue show up again. He's had 6 or 7 fairly significant injuries in a span of 2.5, 3 years. So the durability is one of those where he's kind of being drafted in the RB9 to RB12 range, and that's where he's valued. And since that's the case, I would rather sell and capitalize and get more on that. I mean, he's a player to me right now that I don't know if he's ever going to return that value consistently. And as much as I like him and his skill set as an explosive playmaker, I think he might be best sharing a workload, in the Philadelphia backfield. I think it's a real thing that the Eagles might invest a fairly high pick in a running back. I think a guy like Michael Carter would fit really well with them. Someone just to kind of take the tread off his tires a bit. But my last guy is Tua. I know that breaks your heart, but I just don't know if he's going to be anything other than like a Alex Smith type quarterback, which Alex Smith as pinnacle is very good, but I don't think he's going to be like a top 6 dynasty quarterback ever, right? I don't think he's going to have a top 6 ceiling. So for me, I'm looking to sell and capitalize on someone who does believe in that right now, because people are still really high. He had an up and down rookie year, obviously, but for me, I'm always trying to capitalize on values that, his value might take a drastic dip. I don't see him kind of ascending into that upper echelon of quarterbacks.
I want to agree with the Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders pick, considering he averages a fumble every 33 touches, which is an insane amount considering he gets over 20 touches a game, and that statistic has proven true in the NFL. Considering, he's been taken out of games because of the fumble, and we saw one monstrous play. I think it was against the Steelers where he ran 80 yards, got tackled on the 2-yard line, fumbled it, and then they happened to recover it in the end zone for a touchdown. Oh. So in that moment he was saved, but other than that, he's had careless fumbles throughout his career.
The drops. I think the drops has been the biggest thing too, because he was supposed to take a big step up as a receiver. And I think in that 2019 class, it was kind of a big cluster with him, Montgomery, and Jacobs. But a lot of people like Sanders because he had a lot of room to grow. Right, he was super raw prospect coming out of Penn State. Didn't really have a great collegiate career because he was behind Saquon Barkley for a ton of time. But man, I just don't know. Can he be a 18 touch a game guy consistently? I don't know. That's the big question. The people who think he can, I think you capitalize and sell, because there are a lot of question marks right now.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, he did look pretty good with Hurts.
He did,
I don't know if that'll continue.
Read option, that's more his style for sure.
Mm-hmm. DK is hard. How do you rank DK?
Dude, it's so hard, right? It's so hard
because he's young. It's not like he's old. He's super young. He's in a great system. It fits everything that he likes.
Can I tell you a trade-off? I made.
Ranking DKs.
Let's hear it.
I made this trade-off for week 3 for DK Metcalf, and the person that I offered it to said no, and this is one of those trades where, looking back, I won the trade by him not doing it, because I offered him Justin Jefferson, my 2021 first, and my 2022 first for DK Metcalf.
My goodness.
I made a big boy offer for Metcalf, and the guy said no. He's my wide receiver 1. I need more.
I don't know how much money.
He's my wide receiver 1 in fantasy. So I need more than that for DK Metcalf.
Would you I'm
glad I dodged that bullet.
Right now take Justin Jefferson over DK Metcalf? I would.
I think I would rather.
I would rather have the floor Jefferson.
Yeah,
100%.
Oh, I think they're about the same right now. I think it's just a toss up. Any of them can go off any single week, considering they're both deep threats, and they have a quarterback that's going to sling it. They go with the play action, they run the ball, play action, take their deep shots, and they both fit that same mold. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know what? I trust Seattle and Russell Wilson a little bit more to get the big plays done than I do with Kirk Cousins.
I hope it. Every year with Seattle, it's always this roller coaster ride, right?
They'll start off hot.
Looks unstoppable for 8 weeks.
Yep.
And then it just comes crashing down, right? And so if they can protect Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf's going to be all right. But if they can't protect Russell, DK Metcalf doesn't have as much value as we think.
Yeah,
and that's the tough part is, he is a guy who is dependent on the offensive line because of where he works. He works in the third level of the field. Mm-hmm. So he needs time to get downfield. As big and as fast and as strong as he is, it takes time to get downfield, right? To run his deeper patterns he does, to run a deep post. It's tough. But for me, I always err on the safer side with the upper echelon players in my roster. If I have a wide receiver 1, I want the consistency at that position, but also DK Metcalf offers you the moon for upside. So it's tough.
Yeah, because DK has developed from his rookie year to 100%. Sophomore year. Because he scored a touchdown on 7 different routes this year, which is a lot more than what people were anticipating out of him. Whether it was a streak, post, slant, in, drag, hook. He did improve immensely, which is good. But you can get a lot for DK Metcalf, and that's what a lot of people are going to go for, especially if you're rebuilding. If DK Metcalf is your wide receiver 1, I think you need to sell him to try to get a couple draft picks to rebuild. I think, I mean, while that is a good wide receiver one, you should be doing better than that.
Right. I
so
agree.
the guy that I made that trade offer to, let me see. He finished the year with the worst record in our league and has the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
imagine if he did that trade, though. He would have Justin Jefferson.
He'd have
and
Justin
2
Jefferson
firsts.
He'd have his 101.
Yes.
He'd have my pick, which ended up being the 109. Plus, he would have had another first next year.
I mean,
you talk about being able to rebuild.
I mean, he would still be in last place because Justin Jefferson and
Correct.
DK, they both put up the same amount of numbers. So,
but he would also have the 101, the 109, and then whatever he got next year, which would probably be anywhere. Like, I'm not going to pretend I don't have a good team in this league. I really do. So he would have been probably like another 109 to 112. So it would have been another late first. But man, if you're like rebuilding and you get that kind of an offer, the players are so close. Like that's hard to say no to.
But I mean, this is hindsight's 2020. I mean,
very much so.
When you probably offered that trade, Justin Jefferson was wide receiver 3 on the depth chart. I mean, Chad Beebe was ahead of him at one point. So I mean, I in redraft leagues, I took Justin Jefferson as flyers, but in most of them, I had to end up dropping him because I mean, he took a little bit longer than I'd like for him to earn that starting role. And then of course injuries piled up and, business decisions were made. And of course you end up regretting it eventually, but hindsight's just 2020.
It is. It always is. All right. Let's close this out with some of my sells. I got a couple of big names on this list. Actually, I think all 3 are pretty big names. Excuse me. I'm going to start off with the first person I'm trying to sell is Michael Thomas. He's not somebody that, I want to sell, but I still feel like I can get a lot for Michael Thomas. And it's kind of like what we mentioned with DK. Like if he's the best player on your team and you are stuck in fantasy, either mediocrity or right there in the very middle, like I'm a firm believer. If your team is in the middle in fantasy, that's the worst place. In a dynasty, that's the worst place to be. You either want to be at the top or the bottom. You don't want to be stuck in the middle. If you got Michael Thomas on your team and you're in the middle, he's somebody that can catch you. You can fetch a very nice return for. There are people who still believe him to be a top, 3 wide receiver in the league, which I kind of think he is. He's definitely in the top 5, but there's also a lot of uncertainty with who the quarterback is going to be there, whether it's going to be Taysom Hill, whether it's going to be Jameis Winston, whether they bring somebody else in, whether they draft a quarterback. Like we don't know what's going on with that situation. So if you could get a nice haul in return for Michael Thomas, I say you go ahead and trade him. Julio Jones is somebody I am actually looking to actively offload this season. I'm probably 2 seasons too late, but he's still somebody I think I can get a nice little return on. It's not going to be a fair return. It's probably going to be an early to mid-second round. But if I can get that for Julio Jones in this upcoming class, I'm okay moving him at that price. He's getting up there in age. His quarterback is not the greatest, and he does it every year. He deals with these injuries, and I think it's piling up. If he's on your team and you can move him, he's definitely somebody I want to move. I know he was on pace to score, not on pace to score, but on pace to have 1,400 yards this season. But it's just the injuries are really starting to pile up. You've seen Calvin Ridley start to emerge. I think Calvin Ridley will emerge as the true number 1 on that team next year, with Julio taking a step back as the number 2 on that team. The last person I'm looking to sell is Derrick Henry. I'm just going to say he's had he's been over 800 total touches of the football the last 2 seasons. Like, that is screaming red flags to me. Yes, he was the offensive player of the year. Yes, he just ran over 2,000 yards. Yes, his value will never be higher. Go ahead and sell him. You can get a lot for Derrick Henry. He is a great running back, but he's going to hit. And I think when he hits, he's going to hit really hard. Like he's going to drop off a cliff real fast. We've seen it with DeMarco Murray when Dallas ran him into the ground, and then he went over to Tennessee, and he was just never the same. I think that wall for Derrick Henry, if not this next season, the following season, is the wheels are just going to fall off on him. He can't sustain that many touches of the ball, that many hits to his body. He is going to break down. So those are my 3 sells. What do you guys think?
I like the Derrick Henry one. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he's huge on Dynasty, and he always goes with the philosophy of always sell your RBs when they've hit peak value.
Yep.
Considering they always drop off a cliff, and then you never get that value you once could have. So Derrick Henry would fall in that category as of right now. You can probably get a boatload for him. You can probably get a couple firsts and even a starting player caliber of that nature. And if I was to get that type of offer, I would go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think, Derrick Henry is a top flight running back in the NFL right now. And he's definitely someone that some would offer a first plus for. And if that's the case, yeah, I mean, I think I would think about selling, because he has 2 years left, 2 peak years left at most.
Yep.
If I can get, let's say, if someone wants let's say a early first plus, a second next year, or if you can say, all right, basically it's Trevor Lawrence or like Justin Fields or Derrick Henry. Would I rather have a decade of potentially top flight QB play or 2 years of elite to near elite running back play? If I'm a contending team, I might want to keep Henry around. But if I'm a team in that middle of the pack, the back of the pack, I would much rather have a decade of elite tier quarterback play than 2 years of elite tier running back play.
So let me ask you this. Would you be willing to move Derrick Henry for like a Najee Harris or Travis Etienne plus?
Yeah, Harris, yeah. Because I think Harris offers, excuse me, the most consistent floor at the position. And if you give me plus like a second or something like that, then yeah, I would consider that, depending on where Harris lands and what his touch share looks like immediately. I mean, I think Najee Harris is the clear-cut best running back in this class. I don't think it's close.
100%.
As much as I like Etienne and the skill set he brings, I think Harris brings with him a double-digit touchdown floor. And I think that's the thing that, for me, I would take that, because it's going to, you might see similar value in the next 2 years to that of what Derrick Henry is doing or has done. Do I think Najee Harris is a 2,000-yard back? I don't know. Probably not. But I think he could give you a legitimate RB4 to RB6 finish, plus a second. Like in the second round, I can get Rondale Moore, Tylan Wallace. I can get legitimate prospects there. Rashad Bateman's fallen a couple leagues I've been in.
Sermon's going in the second round in the mock drafts I've done.
Yeah, so I mean, you can get 2 legitimate prospects for or you choose 2 years of Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Derrick Henry's 27 years old, so I mean, after 30, they typically drop off a cliff, and when you're taking the big beating, it could happen sooner. But he is also a big behemoth. I mean,
dude, he's a unicorn. So that's the thing, is like, what do you do with a guy who is generational? Like there has never been a Derrick Henry in this league. There might not be another for a long time. So
240, 6'3", 4.5, 40 yards. If there's somebody that can handle a big workload, he's definitely one of them.
He's a unicorn. So that's the tough thing, is you say, hey, I'm going to take the more unproven prospects and hope they hit, or I'm going to try to ride Derrick Henry into the sunset. So
okay, let me hypothetical. Let's have some fun. If I offer you a half-point PPR Dynasty League, Justin Jefferson or Derrick Henry. You have Derrick Henry. I have Justin Jefferson. I offer you that trade.
And half point, dude, Derrick Henry's value is huge at half point.
What about full point? Does it change?
Full point, yeah. I think
full point, it definitely changes.
Because you're giving me, Justin Jefferson is going to be a wide receiver 1 for potentially the next 8 years, right? Plus.
Okay.
Derrick Henry's going to be an RB1 for, let's say he's an RB1 for 3 years.
Okay.
That's where it gets, I mean, you're talking about potentially 3 times the production
But RBs are difficult.
They are difficult, but difficult. You have to hit it. You have to, for RBs, you have to hit on the big values. Like you have to find the James Robinsons in the world, in order to sustain. Because, I mean, man, you're right. RB is tough, but I mean, either you take the elite running back play for 2 years and make a run of the ship, or you say, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself to hit on some of these, second round, third round RBs. Like imagine if you hit on Antonio Gibson, right? In the late second, early third round of your drafts last year, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. That's fine. Like, you have a potential RB1 there, but it's tough when you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is always
the unknown's tough, man.
Unknown's tough.
Gibson's somebody I'm not afraid to say it. I was wrong on him, as was a lot of people. Yeah, looking at what he did in college, saying he's not going to translate to NFL. I wear that L on my sleeve. I was dead wrong on him.
Well, I think we're getting into an era of player where we're getting a lot of unicorns. We really are. We're getting Antonio Gibson had less than 35 running back touches in his whole collegiate career, and now he's a top 10 dynasty running back a year later. That's crazy. Like that's crazy talk. Like
there's no comp for that. There's none.
There isn't, and that's the thing is we're getting into this era where there isn't a lot of comparables for some of these players. Like James Robinson was in the UDFA, and he was a 1,300-yard rusher, like 1,200-yard rusher, and that's crazy. And then we get Devonta Smith, who's torching the SEC at 160 pounds. Like this is the thing is it's crazy. So that's why, like for me, man, it's like it's a big like you have to do your homework. Data-wise, like analytics, like you have to see how they produce at the collegiate level, but you also have to take a look at film-wise, like what they can be at the NFL level. And like for me, like for Gibson, like I was wrong too. I thought he was gonna be really good one day. Like I thought he needed at least a year and a half of NFL play to, be under his belt and get experience and learn how to be an NFL running back. But he walked in, Darius Geis obviously is out of the league.
Don't break my heart. Don't break my heart.
Yeah, J.D. McKissick is a pass-catching option. Bryce Love, he's nowhere to be found now because of the multiple surgeries had in his knee. Yep. So it falls in Antonio Gibson's lap, and he took it and ran with it. So, man, I mean, it's the perfect storm for some of these guys. But, yeah, I mean, we're getting a lot of very tough players to evaluate because they're just so different and unique.
So I'm not ready to say I'm wrong about Antonio Gibson because he averaged 54 yards a game, and that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it, right? In my opinion.
But I think you look at where he was pre-draft, like you drafting him, and where he is now. Like the value change is dramatic. I mean, that is he was in my league. I drafted him in the second round, late second. And someone's like, why'd you take Gibson? Like, I don't know if he could be good. Like, I liked the player. I liked his film. I thought he looked good. He could be a good back. Then I sold him like 5 weeks later. So I'm like everybody's like catching on that he's really good. So I wanted to sell him. So I got a decent package for him. But I think he can be good, but he's still also a little bit of a gamble because there's still nuances of the game for him to pick up. But if he does pick it up, you have potential top 5 back on your hands.
Yeah, the one thing I hate that a lot of people do is they pretend like these players, especially these younger rookies, sophomores, first 1 or 2 years in the league, like they're not going to get better. Like you look at the production that they had, their rookie season or their second season, and you just, this is what they did last year. This is what they did. Yeah, but there's room to grow. They were a rookie. Their sophomore season. Like they can progress and get better each year. That's what you expect them to do. And I think just a lot of people just write them off saying, well, they only did this year, so they're not really that good. And it's like, well, yeah, but look at Melvin Gordon his first year. Like he went the whole year without scoring a touchdown. And people hated, like they literally hated this man. And then the next year he comes out and, I think he scored 10 or 11 touchdowns the next year. Like, he can get better. We got to give these guys time to improve. We want immediate returns right now. And I feel like that's part of the issue that people have. And I'm completely subverting this right back to my Miami Dolphins, by the way. And that's what the problem that people have right now with Tua is, they come out and say, well, he didn't look really that good. He's just maybe a game manager, and he might be a game manager. I don't know that, but I do know he only played 9 games in a COVID season when there was no offseason, there was no OTAs, there was no rookie mini camps, there were no preseason games, and he's coming off a major injury where we weren't even sure if he would even play this year. And then you look at the weapons the guy had. So I just think a lot of analysts, and I'm not saying anybody here did, but I just think in general people will look and write people off a little too soon and not give them a chance to improve.
Yeah.
When you have rookies coming out and immediately showing elite talent, such as we just talked about, Justin Jefferson, like DK Metcalf, all this wide receiver class that we just had, they came in and they showed immediate production. I mean, Joey Burrow, he showed immediate production. And of course, we're going to mention Justin Herbert, Rookie of the Year, immediate production. And then you have Tua, who was an Alabama quarterback who set all these records and looked phenomenal. And then he didn't come out and show immediate production. I think that turned a lot of people off.
Yep, it did. But all right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This has been fun, to be honest. I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate you guys having these conversations with me. This has really been a blast. Let's go with Angela. Why don't you go ahead, tell everybody again where they can follow you, where they can look up all your information, and all that good stuff. And then Nader, why don't you jump in right after him, please?
Sure. First, thanks for having me, man. It was an absolute blast talking football and how you guys are in such warm weather and I'm out here in the Arctic in Chicago. But man, you can find me on my website on angeloanalysis.com. But more commonly, you can find me on Twitter at Angelo_fantasy. The rookie breakdowns are starting soon. So the why series, like why Najee Harris, why Travis Etienne, those will start flowing in the next week or two. And then we can get the website rolling, and I'm excited for another fun draft season.
I can't wait. Go ahead, Nader.
So, of course, you can follow me at Top Tier Tactics _ and, of course, the Top Tier Tactics podcast, where me and my co-host, Bud, who's currently potentially delivering, or his wife, I should say, delivering a baby pretty soon. So,
congratulations.
So I'm sure he's super excited, or else he might have been also onto the show. Of course, we spend our time talking a lot of football analytics, and then, of course, trash talking each other in between, which is typically tons of fun.
I can say, if you could relay a message to him for me, he needs to get his priorities in straight. His wife can have a baby another time, but he should have been.
I told him, but sometimes you're on a leash.
I'm happy for him, but at the same time, come on, man, just tell her to hold it, okay? Just tell her. I'm just kidding. I
tried. Sometimes you're on a leash, and she cracked the whip on him.
Listen, as somebody who's been married for almost 20 years. I know that leash he's on. It's a strong one. It's a very strong leash.
Oh, boy.
So, as always, I am George. You can follow me at BFTG Pod. You can also follow Slipperwire at Slipperwire Show. Again, gentlemen, truly an honor to have you on. Thank you guys for joining me, sharing your opinions, having these conversations. Let's get out of here. It's late. I've got to take a shower and get to bed. Elon's going to whoop me if I come in late tomorrow. So, gentlemen, again, I appreciate it. Angelo, stay warm. Nader, stay warm, I guess. Go get cold. Go see snow. Go see snow. There you go. Go see some snow, Nader.
No. Absolutely not. No.
You can do it from Facebook in San Francisco. It's okay. That's the way I like to do it.
It's kind of nice.
So, all right, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Take care, guys.
Good luck.